I ain't been drinking a lot of beer that much because I've been working on this damn bike. Now that it took 2 hours to cut that fucking piece out, so we're gonna do it without a template. I screwed that up pretty good. What's going on, people? It's Yeti Jeff at Yeti Machine Co. How you guys doing today? Last time we were working on the Sissy Bar, made a couple little changes, made it more into a pitchfork, less trident, sharpened the tips a little bit, got this part finish welded. It's pretty much done except for the license plate bracket and drone for the fender. But today, I'm gonna be showing you guys how I like to make seat pans. I'm not saying this is the only way to make a seat pan. There's people that make them out of sheet metal and fiberglass, all kinds of different shit. But this is how I'm gonna make this one. So hope you like it. First thing you're gonna do is get a nice piece of cardboard. Most guys use beer boxes because that's a lot more chopper, but I have Dr. Pepper boxes because that's what I had at my pad. Because I ain't been drinking a lot of beer that much because I've been working on this damn bike. So what I like to do, kind of get this thing roughly where we're gonna go. I'm basically just gonna go in here with my Sharpie and get a rough outline of my frame rails, a general size, and then we'll cut it out with the scissors. That gives us at least this part. This is our rough shape. Cut it out with our scissors. Make sure you get child scissors that are too small for your hands. Those tend to work the best. And they should be dull too, so that you have to fight with them. Tricks of the trade. So here's a good rough shape. I don't particularly like having sharp edges. Like that. Now one thing, there's two things that I'm not doing myself on this bike. That's the paint work on the tank. That tank is actually out in Texas right now at Alchemy Customs getting painted. Shout out to Alchemy Customs. And I do not do upholstery because I, number one, don't know how. Number two, I don't have a really nice, expensive leather sewing machine. But there's a guy in Riverside named Kiwi Customs. He does awesome upholstery. Shout out to Kiwi. And I'll do the rough foaming myself. And then he'll end up going through it and doing the finished foam work. But I like to get a rough shape. So here's the main pan, obviously. The seat's gonna come up the fender. And then the back part, the queen part, is I'm gonna try to get it as close to the tip as possible. We wanna have all this upholstered. So that's gonna be interesting. I'm glad I don't have to figure out a way to sew around this corner. That's gonna be his problem. I'm going to grab some sheet metal and then we're gonna start cutting that. So I'm gonna get my rough square out of this thing. Should be wearing gloves, but I'm an idiot. But you want to try to keep it from like sliding in your hand because it gets really sharp on the edges. It can cause pretty good cuts. All right, a lot more to work with. And again, this is still really just a rough shape. And we'll work it in with various tools. All right, so we had a couple little bites here and there. We'll get that cleaned up with a grinder. Getting there. Interesting. Totally didn't I forgot so the top of this is higher than the top of this. And so it's kind of making this thing does that. So what I might have to do is run a bend straight down the center. Just kick it up just a little bit so that it sits flat on the bike. Alrighty, so we got the main part of the seat pan done. Had to put a little bend down the center, otherwise it would rock back and forth off of this. It's really not gonna matter so much once the foam is on there because it's gonna be covered with upholstery anyway. So the next thing I'm gonna work on is building this back piece. I think I still have enough material out of my Dr. Pepper box. So that is damn near where it needs to be. So I'm gonna cut along this line here. I'm probably just gonna get this piece rough today because we're working with, this fender isn't really flat. It's got a flat spot about this wide, but we need the pan to come out a little bit farther than that. So I'm gonna get this rough bend done and then I'm gonna move on to making this. But I have to set up my shrinker so that we can try to work this, this radius. So first thing we need to do though is get a piece of material cut to size and then go from there. So that is roughly the length that we need. Now it's going to be a little bit narrower, but this will get us a good start. Sharpies are great, but I'll tell you what, these Milwaukee pens are awesome. They have a lot finer of a tip and they tend not to dry out as fast. Like the Sharpies, if you leave the cap off for like 15-20 minutes, they usually dry out, but these Milwaukee Inkall pens don't. They're awesome. So I highly recommend these if you got them laying around or if you can find them. Now what I'm going to do is just clean up these edges so they're not very sharp. With the sander again, go over it with the DA, and we'll figure out the next step. Alrighty, so for this next part, we got the piece cut out. Went over to my press brake, put a nice bend here. So what we're gonna try to do is use this cheap piece of shit shrinker that I got from Harbor Freight. And the idea behind a shrinker is it grabs the metal and pinches it together. So I've got a rough radius that'll kind of match the fender, but what I wanna do is put a radius this way. So what we're gonna do is actually grab on these edges and slowly try to roll this thing in. We'll see how it goes. Yeah,
that worked pretty good.
It's not too bad. It's doing something. So, got the back piece done. The shrinker actually ended up working out okay. Now, obviously, this isn't, you know, coach building quality sheet metal work here, but for a cheap Harbor Freight shrinker and a DA, I'm not mad about it. I may trim this up a little bit, but yeah, I got the radius of the fender matched pretty good. I don't know, I'm actually pleasantly surprised it worked out. So the next thing I'm going to be doing, I'm going to make the sheet metal for the back piece. Probably just set the sheet metal up there and draw on it because I don't have enough cardboard to make a template. So we're gonna do it without a template. Instead of trying to run it in between, we're actually gonna run it on top of the Sissy Bar. Reason being, it's gonna be a lot easier for the upholsterer and for me to not have to worry about being too wide with the pan and then not having room when the actual upholstery is on the pan. And then the majority of the cutting and the fabrication is done. There's going to be some massaging and some cleaning up but we can at least get it set up to where we can get it tacked and then get it foamed and send it on off to Kiwi. Now that it took 2 hours to cut that fucking piece out, what I want to do is match the radius of the fender with the bottom of this. Reason being is because I want these two pieces to be able to be welded together. Obviously this is not flat, so I want this corner to come down here. So what I'm going to do, take my handy dandy marker and use the fender and the width of the marker to draw out a radius. Gangster ass clamps, dude. Harbor Freight special, baby. All right.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
And we're back. I am working by myself today. We ran out of time yesterday when Robert was in here with the nice camera filming, and we're still working on this seat pan. So let me show you what I got. So I think when we left off, I was working on this piece. I went ahead, I was looking at it and staring at it, and I didn't like how wide it was. So I went ahead and trimmed down these edges. And basically the idea of that is that, you know, I didn't want the seat to be like hanging off the side of the fender. I don't think that's gonna look good. But I think I nailed it pretty damn good as far as that radius goes, especially for a seat pan. I mean, this is, you know, I hate to say it like, oh, nobody's gonna see it, but nobody's really gonna see this. This is completely underneath the seat. So yesterday when Robert was in here, I think I had just started working on this back piece, and yeah, I screwed that up pretty good. So I'm gonna have to make a new piece. This piece, I just don't like how it fits. It's like narrower up top. If it was mine, I would leave it, but I'm not gonna second guess myself. And I don't wanna look at this bike and be like, damn, I should have done that different. I wanna do it exactly correct. Well, whatever, not correct, but you know what I'm saying. Anyways, so I'm gonna go ahead and actually measure and trim out a new piece for that right now. Alrighty then. So we've got this piece trimmed up now with the Sissy Bar. Still need to do a little bit of massaging to get it to fit. Gotta kind of close this gap in here. Gotta work on this gap in here, but the majority of the seat pan fabrication is done. It's gonna be a big ass seat because it's a big ass Sissy Bar. So yeah, pretty excited. It's coming out pretty cool. It's gonna be a good looking seat. Trim that piece, got it welded in there. Got this piece trimmed where I want it to be. Not too shabby. Got it, oh God, got it tacked in. Pretty stoked. Gonna get that welded right now. And we're done. Got that part welded in. Stayed decently straight. Kind of screwed up that corner and blew it out a little bit, but all in all, seat pan, majority of it is done. That's all I got for tonight. It's 7 o'clock. It's time for me to go home to my old lady. But if you could, if you're watching this, please like, please subscribe. If you want to stay more up to date with what I got going on here at my shop, go ahead and head on over to Yeti Machine Co. on Instagram and on TikTok. Also, if you want to support me, hit up my website, www.yetimachineko.com. Appreciate y'all.